For 20 years, space had been silent. No woman's voice had been heard among the stars. Only men remained on the great colony ship called Odyssey, drifting in the dark sea of the galaxy. They had once dreamed of new worlds, new futures, and families that would grow under strange skies. But the dream had ended when a deadly virus took all the women. The ship became a prison, filled with men who worked, argued, and fought, but never truly lived. Captain Aaron Hale stood at the bridge, staring at the stars that stretched forever. His face was older now, lined with the heavy weight of lost years. He remembered laughter, the warmth of family, and the soft voices of those who were gone. But memories faded with time, and silence grew heavier. The crew still worked, still maintained the engines, still ate their rations, but their spirits had grown empty. Some drank themselves into numbness. Some started fights in the halls. Some locked themselves away in silence. Humanity, it seemed, was slowly dying, not from war or hunger, but from loneliness. Aaron was different. He refused to let despair destroy him. He believed that something waited out there, something that could change their fate. Every day he listened to the void, scanning the frequencies, searching for any sign of life. And every day there was nothing but static, until one night everything changed. The bridge was quiet, only the hum of the engines filling the air. Aaron sat alone at the console when suddenly a faint voice broke through the static. At first he thought it was a ghost of memory, a trick of the mind. But the sound grew stronger, a clear voice, soft yet commanding. It was a woman's voice, and it said, "You know what to do, human." Aaron froze, his hands gripping the console. His heart raced, sweat on his brow. He had not heard a woman's voice in 20 years. Every nerve in his body told him this was impossible, but the voice repeated, calm and certain, "You know what to do, human." He called the crew, and soon the bridge filled with men staring at the monitor. Some laughed in disbelief. Others cursed in fear. "Impossible," one whispered. "They are all gone, all dead." But the voice returned, not recorded, not broken, but alive. And it carried a hidden code, strange patterns in the signal, coordinates buried deep in the waves. The crew argued. "It's a trap," said one. "It's hope," said another. Aaron listened, silent, his eyes fixed on the stars. He had waited for something, anything, for 2 decades of emptiness. And now, something had answered. "Set a course," Aaron commanded, his voice steady though his heart thundered inside. The men looked at him in shock, some afraid, some eager. But Aaron did not waver. If there was even a chance that the voice was real, he had to follow. For 20 years they had survived without women, but they had not lived. Now, the universe had whispered back, and Aaron would not ignore it. The engines roared, and the great ship Odyssey turned in the darkness. Stars shifted across the view, and the path ahead glowed with unseen promise. The voice had given them coordinates, a destination hidden in the black. As the ship moved, the voice echoed one last time, soft but powerful. "You know what to do, human." The men stood in silence, chills running through their bodies. For the first time in 20 years, they felt something more than despair. They felt fear, yes, but also hope. A dangerous hope, sharp as a blade. For if the voice was real, then everything could change. But if it was a lie, then it could be the end of them all. Captain Aaron Hale closed his eyes and whispered to himself, "We will find you, whoever you are." The silence of 20 years had ended, the long wait was over, and the true story of humanity was about to begin. The voice did not vanish. It came again the next day, clear and strong. "You know what to do, human," it said, carrying the same strange weight. The men gathered in the bridge, their eyes wide, their hearts pounding. For 20 years, silence had been their only companion. Now a single woman's voice had broken the void. The engineers worked without rest. They pulled apart the signal, breaking it into fragments of code, numbers, symbols, and patterns flickered across the screens. At first it looked like random static, but Aaron Hale knew better. There was meaning buried inside. Lieutenant Drake, the youngest officer, stared at the data. "It's coordinates," he whispered, voice shaking. He highlighted the repeating sequence, showing lines that pointed to a sector of deep space, a place no human ship had dared to travel, dark, uncharted, and filled with old stories of vanished fleets. But the voice had chosen that place, and the message was clear. Arguments broke out across the bridge. Some of the crew shouted in anger. "It's a trap," they said. "Aliens trying to finish us." Others leaned forward with hungry eyes, desperate for hope. "What if it's real?" they asked. "What if a woman survived?" The men had lived in a world of silence for so long. Even a small chance was enough to ignite fire in their hearts. Captain Aaron did not speak at first. He listened to their words, their fears, their dreams. He knew they were standing at the edge of destiny. A wrong choice could destroy them, but to ignore the message would mean staying in the long silence forever, and that was no life at all. "Run the signal again," Aaron ordered. The speakers crackled, and once more, the woman's voice filled the bridge. Calm, steady, filled with strange strength. "You know what to do, human." Men who had forgotten how to hope felt their chests tighten. Some even closed their eyes. As if listening to a prayer, Aaron turned to the crew, his face firm. "We will follow," he said. "If this is a trap, we will face it. If it is salvation, we will seize it. Humanity cannot live in silence forever." The Odyssey shifted course, engines burning as they set their path toward the unknown coordinates. Days passed as the ship sailed into darker regions of space. The stars grew fewer, the blackness thicker. Every man on board felt the weight of the journey. They whispered about the voice in their bunks in the halls in the mess. Some dreamed of families. Others dreamed of love they never thought to feel again. But not all men dreamed. Some feared. Among them was First Officer Cade, a man hardened by 20 years of emptiness. His face was cold, his eyes sharp as knives. He did not trust the voice. To him it was no gift, it was poison, he whispered to others in the shadows. "Can't you see it's an alien trick? They lure us to our end." And some men listened, for fear is always louder than hope. On the 7th day of travel, the signal grew stronger. The woman's voice no longer faint. It came like a whisper directly in their ears. "You know what to do, human." But this time, the words carried more. Strange tones underneath, a rhythm that beat like a hidden heart. The scientists played the sound again and again. "It's not just words," one said. "It's a code, a map, a doorway." Aaron felt the weight of it deep in his bones. This was no simple message. It was a call, a command, a test. Someone or something wanted them to come, and it wanted humanity to answer, at last. The ship reached the edge of the coordinates. The men crowded at the windows, their eyes wide with awe. There, floating in the endless dark, was a massive shape, a structure larger than any station built by human hands. It pulsed with faint light, ancient symbols glowing like veins across its surface. The Odyssey slowed, silence falling over the crew. Every man felt it, the pull of destiny. Aaron stepped forward, staring at the station. "After 20 years, he whispered, the silence has ended." The voice came again, louder than before. "You know what to do, human." And with those words, the station opened, a great door sliding apart to welcome them in. The crew gasped, some in terror, some in awe. And Aaron Hale knew their choice had already been made. The long silence was over. The true message had only just begun. The massive station floated in the void like a sleeping giant. Its surface glowed with ancient light, dim and soft, as if it had been waiting for centuries. No human design matched its strange shape. The walls curved like the shells of deep sea, creatures smooth but filled with veins of glowing symbols. The Odyssey drifted closer, and every man on board felt the same shiver. It was like staring at a tomb, yet also like looking at a miracle. Captain Aaron Hale stood at the bridge window, his eyes locked on the giant door that had opened as if inviting them. For 20 years they had known only silence and loss. Now, something beyond human understanding was calling them inside, but not all were ready to answer. First Officer Cade spoke in a hard voice. "This is madness," he growled. "It is alien. It is unknown. It is death waiting for us." The crew shifted uneasily. Fear pressed on them like a heavy hand. But Aaron did not move. "If this is death," he said calmly, "then death has more mercy than silence." His voice carried strength, and even those who doubted fell silent. The ship passed through the open gate. Darkness swallowed them as they entered the vast chamber inside. The walls curved high above, glowing faintly with shifting light. The air was not empty vacuum, but filled with breathable oxygen. It was as if the station knew they were coming, as if it had been prepared for humans. The men looked around in wonder. The silence inside was thick, but not empty. It felt alive. Each step echoed. Each breath sounded too loud. Strange machines lined the walls, silent but still glowing. Their shapes were smooth, almost organic, as if grown instead of built. Then they found it. At the heart of the chamber stood a crystal cylinder, tall and shining. Inside it floated a figure, motionless but alive. It was a woman, her skin pale, her hair floating like dark silk in the liquid. Her chest rose and fell with faint breath. Her eyes closed as if in deep sleep. The crew froze, their hearts pounding. For 20 years no man had seen a woman with living eyes. Some men wept openly, some fell to their knees. Others whispered in disbelief. "This cannot be real," they muttered. "It is a dream, a trick." Aaron stepped closer, his hand trembling as he touched the glass. She was real. He could see the rise of her chest, the faint beat of her heart, and in that moment the silence of 20 years cracked. The ship's sensors came alive with alarms. A human heartbeat had been detected, and it was female. Suddenly the chamber shook with light. The walls pulsed, the machines stirred. The symbols across the surface glowed brighter. It was as if the station had awakened. And then the voice came, again not from the speakers this time, but from the chamber itself. "You know what to do, human." The men staggered back, some in terror, some in awe. The voice was the same as before, soft but commanding. But now they knew where it came from. It came from the woman inside the crystal. Her eyes flickered open, glowing faintly as they met Aaron's. For a moment, the entire crew held their breath. A living woman, the first they had seen in 2 decades, was staring at them. Her lips moved, her voice filling the chamber even though no sound came from her mouth. "You know what to do, human," the men argued wildly, their voices clashing like weapons. "She is a savior," one shouted. "She has come to restore us." "She is a weapon," another hissed. "An alien trick to destroy us." First Officer Cade's eyes burned with suspicion. "This is not salvation. This is the end," he said coldly. "Destroy her before she destroys us." But Aaron stood firm, his gaze locked on the woman. Her eyes were strange, filled with both human warmth and something alien. And yet he felt no fear, only certainty. She was the key. He knew it deep in his bones. Whatever fate awaited them, it began with her. The crystal chamber hummed, glowing brighter. Machines around it stirred to life, screens flashing unknown symbols. The woman raised her hand slowly, pressing it against the glass. Aaron raised his own, pressing his palm against hers, only the barrier between them. The light grew, wrapping both of them in a halo. The crew shielded their eyes, hearts thundering in their chests, and then her voice filled the air once more, louder now, powerful and clear. "You know what to do, human." The chamber cracked with sound, the glass beginning to shift. The woman inside was awakening, and the fate of humanity was about to change forever. The crystal chamber shook as light spread across the walls. Symbols burned brighter, machines hummed with life. The woman inside opened her eyes fully, her gaze sharp and strange. Her lips moved, and her voice rang inside every man's mind. "You know what to do, human." The crew staggered back in fear. Some raised their weapons, hands shaking. Others froze in awe, unable to believe what they were seeing. For 20 years they had known only silence, only emptiness. Now a woman stood before them, breathing, alive, speaking. It was too much for their minds to carry. Captain Aaron Hale did not step back. He stood firm, his hand still pressed to the glass, her palm against his, separated only by the crystal. He felt warmth through the barrier, faint but real. It was not a dream, not a trick of memory. She was real, and she was awake. The chamber hissed, liquid draining away, the glass split open, releasing a wave of cold air. The woman stepped forward, her feet touching the floor with silent grace. Her movements were slow but certain. Her eyes swept across the men, studying them as if she already knew each of their faces. The crew could not move. Some whispered prayers, others cursed. Cade, the first officer, broke the silence with a growl. "She is not human," he spat. "Look at her, she is wrong, she is alien." The men's fear grew louder, like fire catching dry grass. But Aaron raised his hand, silencing them. The woman finally spoke with her own lips, her voice calm but echoing with strange depth. "My name is Lyra," she said. "I am the bridge between you and the ones who came before." Her words were simple, but the meaning was heavy. "On this station lies the future of your kind," she continued. "But it is also a test." The crew stared in confusion. A test after all their suffering, after 20 years of silence. No man wanted riddles, they wanted answers, they wanted salvation, or at least the truth. "What are you?" Aaron asked, his voice steady. Lyra turned her eyes to him, her gaze, both kind and sharp. "I am human and not human," she said, "made from your blood but shaped by another hand." The men gasped, some stepping back. Alien, they thought, she is alien. But her face, her voice, her breath, they were human too. "You were not forgotten," Lyra said. "Your race was watched, measured, tested." The words fell like stones in the silence. The crew shifted uneasily. Tested, the idea cut deep. Had their pain been nothing more than an experiment? Had the silence been forced upon them by unseen hands? First Officer Cade stepped forward, anger burning in his eyes. "You see?" he shouted. "She admits it. This is no gift, this is a cage, we are rats to them." His voice carried weight, fear wrapping around the crew like chains. Many nodded, uncertain, their hope turning to doubt. Cade pointed at Lyra, his hand trembling with fury. "She will destroy us all," he growled, but Lyra did not flinch. She looked only at Aaron as if the others did not matter. Her voice rang again, soft but commanding. "You know what to do, human." Aaron's chest tightened. He felt the weight of her words, heavy as destiny itself. He wanted to believe, but doubt whispered in his ear. Was she a savior or a weapon? Would she bring life or end it? The station pulsed, the floor trembling beneath their feet. Lights flared across the walls, symbols rearranging themselves. The men panicked, shouting, gripping weapons. The station was alive, and it responded to her. Lyra raised her hand and the machines calmed. The lights softened, the hum eased, she was in control. "This place," she said, her voice echoing, "is not built to harm you, it is built to see you, to measure if you are worthy to continue." Her words cut through the fear, leaving silence behind. Aaron stepped closer, searching her eyes. "And if we fail?" he asked quietly. "What then?" Lyra lowered her gaze, her voice softer now. "Then humanity will end, not by war, not by hunger, but by itself." The crew erupted again, fear louder than hope. Cade shouted above them, "All, we should end this now. Kill her, destroy the station, escape before it swallows us." Several men raised their rifles, their eyes wild. But Aaron stood between them and Lyra, his hand on his own weapon. "No one fires," he commanded, his voice sharp as steel. For a long moment, the bridge of men and one woman stood in frozen silence, fear on one side, hope on the other. Lyra's eyes glowed faintly as she whispered once more, "You know what to do, human." And the station trembled again, louder this time. A deep rumble shook the walls as the floor beneath them shifted. Doors opened across the chamber, revealing long halls glowing with light. The test had begun, and there was no turning back. The floor of the chamber shifted beneath their boots. Metal panels slid apart, revealing long, glowing corridors stretching into the dark. The sound of machinery echoed through the walls, as if the station itself had awakened fully. Symbols along, The halls pulsed like beating hearts, guiding them forward. The test had begun, whether they wished it or not. Captain Aaron Hale gripped his weapon, his eyes fixed ahead. He felt the weight of every man behind him, their fear pressing against his back. Lyra stood calm in the center, her eyes glowing faintly as she watched the walls. "This place listens," she whispered. "It listens to your fear, to your hope, to your choices." The men shivered, some muttering under their breath. A station that could read them was not a station. It was a mind. "First officer," Cade snarled, his voice sharp. "We should not follow. We should destroy this place before it destroys us." But Aaron silenced him with a glare. "The path is open," he said. "We walk it." For 20 years they had lived in silence. Now they stood at the doorway of something greater. Aaron would not turn back. The men marched into the first corridor, their boots echoing against smooth stone. Strange lights flickered overhead, forming shapes they did not recognize. Then the corridor split into 3 passages, each glowing a different color: red, blue, and green. The walls shimmered with energy, waiting. Lyra spoke, her voice soft. "This is the first trial. It will divide you, but your choice will decide if you remain one or become nothing." The crew argued instantly. "Red is danger, we must avoid it," one shouted. "Blue is safe, it must be the right way." Another argued, "No, green is life, green means hope." Others insisted. Fear and desperation twisted their voices. Each man wanted a simple answer, a path that promised survival. But there was no clear sign, only the glow of 3 roads. Aaron turned to Lyra. "What do you know?" he asked, his voice steady. Lyra shook her head slowly. "I cannot choose for you. The trial is not mine. It is yours. It is not about the path, but about unity." Her words struck him deeply. He realized the trial was not to see if they chose correctly, but to see if they chose together. He faced the men, his voice sharp. "We go as one, not divided," he said. Some protested, their fear too loud, but Aaron's voice cut through them like a blade. "Divided we die," he declared. "Together, we live." The men fell silent, the truth heavy on their shoulders. Aaron raised his hand and pointed to the green corridor. "Green," he said. "Life, hope, renewal. We take this road as one." The crew hesitated, but one by one, they followed. Even Cade, though his eyes burned with anger, walked with the rest. The corridor pulsed as they entered. The walls shifted, showing visions of the past. They saw Earth, cities burning, oceans rising, families lost. They saw the women who had vanished 20 years ago, their faces fading like smoke. The men cried out, their hearts breaking under the weight of memory. The station was not showing them random images. It was showing them their pain. Lyra walked calmly, her voice a whisper. "It feeds on your truth. It shows what you carry." The crew staggered, some falling to their knees. But Aaron pressed forward, his voice strong. "Stand up, men. We have lived this pain already. We will not die inside it." His words gave them strength, and they rose, step by step. At the end of the corridor, a massive door waited. Symbols glowed across its surface, shifting like living fire. Lyra stepped forward, placing her hand against it. The door pulsed, and the symbols formed a single message in human words. "Unity is strength," it read. The door opened with a roar of light. They entered the second chamber, vast and cold. Inside were machines, floating drones with glowing eyes. They hovered silently, then surrounded the men. Weapons hummed with deadly energy. The crew lifted their rifles in panic, their voices shouting, "Fight! Fight them!" they cried. But Lyra raised her hand sharply. "No," she said, her voice calm but firm. "This is not a battle. It is another test. Violence will end you here." The drones circled closer, their eyes glowing brighter. Aaron's heart pounded, but he lowered his weapon. "Hold your fire," he commanded. The men hesitated, trembling, but obeyed. The drones hovered for a long moment, their lights scanning across the men. Then one by one they drifted away, vanishing into the shadows. The chamber fell silent again. Lyra nodded, her voice soft. You chose trust over fear. The path continues. The men breathed heavily, relief flooding their faces. But Cade stepped forward, fury burning in his eyes. You gamble with our lives, he spat at Aran. One wrong choice and we are dead. One false word from her and we are finished. His anger spread like poison, infecting the hearts of men who still doubted. Aaron met his gaze, steel in his eyes. Fear has kept us alive, but it will not lead us to tomorrow, he said firmly. Cade's lips curled in rage, but he said nothing more. Still, his silence was not surrender. It was only the silence of a storm waiting to strike. The chamber walls pulsed again, revealing another path forward. Lyra's eyes glowed brighter, her face unreadable. The trials are not finished, she whispered, and the hardest is yet to come. The men stood together, hearts heavy with both fear and hope. They had survived the first steps, but unity was fragile, and shadows of doubt still grew in their ranks. The station was not only testing them, it was breaking them apart piece by piece, and somewhere deep inside the true judgment waited. The station shook with a deep rumble. Walls shifted, corridors twisted. The air itself seemed to breathe. The men staggered, clutching their weapons, their fear rising again. They had survived 2 trials, but each step forward only made the test harder. And now, the final chamber opened before them, glowing like a furnace of light. Inside the chamber stood a great machine. It rose higher than a tower, covered in flowing veins of silver and gold. Its center pulsed with a core of blinding energy. Around it, crystal pods glimmered, each filled with fragments of DNA, cells preserved in light. Lyra stepped forward, her eyes fixed on the core. This is the heart of the station, she whispered, the place where life can be reborn. The crew gathered behind her, their eyes wide. What do you mean? One asked, his voice trembling. Lyra turned slowly, her face calm but sorrowful. These pods hold what humanity lost, she said. The genetic keys to restore the women who are gone. A gasp spread through the men, their hearts pounding with sudden hope. They could almost see it. Families, children, a future, for the first time in 2 decades. The word tomorrow felt real, but Lyra's voice grew heavy. The core must be awakened to release the code, to merge it with your own DNA, to bring balance back to your race, she said. And for that, a sacrifice is required. The words fell like blades in the silence. The men looked at one another, faces pale. A sacrifice, Aaron said, his voice low. What kind of sacrifice? Lyra's eyes met his, filled with unspoken truth. A life, she whispered. One must give their life force to fuel the awakening. The chamber filled with cries of protest. This is madness, shouted one. We did not come here to die. Another yelled. The fragile unity they had held began to crack. Fear returned, stronger than before. Some men turned on Lyra, shouting that she had tricked them. Cade's voice rose above them all, sharp and furious. I told you, he roared. She is a weapon. She was sent to destroy us. He raised his rifle, pointing it at her chest. The men froze, some ready to follow him, some ready to defend her. Aaron stepped between them, his hand on his own weapon. No, Aaron growled, his voice like thunder. If she dies, hope dies with her. Cade's eyes burned with rage. You would kill your own. Men for her, he spat. I would save humanity. Aaron answered, steady and cold. The chamber trembled again, the core pulsing brighter. Lyra lifted her hand, lowering both of their weapons with unseen force. Her voice echoed through the chamber, calm, but filled with sorrow. It is not his life that must be given, she said, her eyes fixed on Aaron. It is mine. The men gasped, disbelief spreading like fire. Aaron shook his head violently. No, he said. You are the key. Without you, we cannot finish this. Lyra stepped closer, her eyes gentle but firm. You do not understand, Aaron, she whispered. I was made for this. I was shaped to guide you here, and to give what you cannot. My life is not mine. It belongs to humanity. Aaron's chest ached, his breath heavy. He wanted to argue, to fight, to command her to stop. But deep inside he knew she spoke the truth. From the moment she awoke, she had been preparing for this. She was not meant to live. She was meant to give. The men began to weep, some falling to their knees. For 20 years they had known nothing but loss. Now, when hope was finally within reach, it came with the price of sacrifice. Lyra stepped toward the core, her body glowing faintly with the same light that pulsed inside it. The energy welcomed her as if the station itself recognized her fate. Aaron reached for her hand, his voice breaking. "There must be another way," he pleaded. Lyra smiled softly, sadness in her eyes. "There is only this way," she said. "You know what to do, human." She pressed her palm to the core. Light exploded across the chamber, blinding and pure. The walls shook, the pods glowed, the station roared like a living being. Lyra's body lifted into the air, her form wrapped in streams of fire and silver. Her voice filled the chamber one last time, echoing like music. "Live, grow, love. Do not waste this gift." The men cried out, reaching for her, but Aaron held them back. He stood frozen, his heart torn apart. The light grew brighter until it consumed her completely. When it faded, Lyra was gone. Only the pulsing core remained, glowing with renewed power. The pods around the chamber opened, streams of energy rushing into the air. Data filled the screens, showing sequences of life returning. The code was released, the future restored. The crew wept openly, some shouting with joy, some with sorrow. Aaron stood silent, his eyes locked on the core. She was gone, but her sacrifice had given humanity its second chance. And deep inside the chamber, her last words still lingered in the air. "You know what to do, human." The light of the core faded slowly, leaving the chamber in soft glow. The air was warm now, alive, filled with energy that seemed to pulse like a heartbeat. The men stood in silence, their faces wet with tears, their chests heavy with sorrow and awe. Lyra was gone, her body dissolved into the very machine that now pulsed with life. Her sacrifice still hung in the air, heavy and sacred. Captain Aaron Hale stood at the center, staring at the glowing core. His hands trembled, his heart torn apart. He had led his men through the silence, through fear, through trials. But he had not saved her. She had saved them. The words she left behind echoed in his soul. "You know what to do, human." The pods surrounding the chamber opened fully, streams of glowing data flowing into the ship's systems. Holographic projections lit up the walls, showing codes of DNA, the missing sequences of life. The men gasped as they understood what they were seeing. The genetic keys to restore the women of humanity were now theirs. For 20 years they had walked in silence, and now a voice had given them the power to rise again. Some men cheered, their voices breaking in joy. Others knelt, whispering prayers of thanks. But not all felt peace. First Officer Cade stood, apart, his face twisted with rage and loss. "She tricked us," he growled. "She was never one of us. She was their creation, their pawn." His words carried venom, but the crew no longer listened. For the first time, hope was stronger than fear. Aaron turned slowly, his voice heavy but firm. "No, Cade," he said. "She was more human than any of us. We lived in despair. She gave us a future. We clung to fear. She chose sacrifice. Without her, we would have nothing." The crew nodded, their hearts bound by his words. Cade's rage faded into silence. Though his eyes still burned, the station shifted again, its walls trembling as if it too breathed relief. Symbols across the chamber aligned into clear words. "Humanity continues," they read, glowing softly. The men stared in awe, realizing the station was not just a test. It was a guardian, built to hold the seeds of their survival. Until they were ready, Aaron led his crew back toward the Odyssey, their steps slow, their hearts heavy. When they crossed the great halls, they felt no fear, only reverence. The station did not resist them now, its doors opening willingly. It had judged them, and through Lyra's gift, they had passed Back, on the ship, the crew gathered in the main hall. Data streamed onto their screens showing plans for laboratories, chambers, and the process of restoration. The work would be long, difficult, filled with sacrifice of its own, but the path was clear. Humanity would live again, and it was Lyra's voice that guided them there. At night, when the ship drifted among the stars, Aaron stood alone at the viewing window. The galaxy stretched before him, endless and beautiful, but for the first time in 20 years, he did not feel alone. He heard her words in the silence. "You know what to do, human," he whispered into the void, his voice soft. "Yes, Lyra, I know." The men worked tirelessly in the days that followed. The genetic codes were unlocked, the first signs of renewal beginning. Not instant, not easy, but real. For every man, the emptiness that had weighed on their hearts began to lift. They spoke again of tomorrow, of children, of laughter returning to human life, yet sorrow remained. Every success reminded them of her sacrifice. Some lit candles in her memory. Some carved her name into the walls of the ship. She had been with them only a short time, but her presence had changed everything. She was not forgotten, and never. Would-be Cade kept his distance, silent and bitter, but even he could not deny what had been given. Even he bowed his head when the crew spoke her name. For in the end, even anger could not erase the truth. The Odyssey moved forward, leaving the ancient station behind. But the crew knew it was not gone. It had given them life. And somewhere, perhaps, it still watched. Perhaps Lyra's spirit lingered within it, guiding them still. Aaron stood on the bridge, his eyes fixed on the horizon of stars. "Set a course for home," he commanded, his voice steady. The engines roared, carrying them into the future, and in the quiet of his heart, he whispered one last time, "You know what to do." Human, the silence of 20 years was broken. The long night had ended, and the rebirth of humanity had begun.